Mangaroos Tutoring Services, Mathematics Classes.
Salary or wages. Wages is pay based on a fixed number of hours worked. Usually, it's paid weekly. Extra hours of work are called overtime, and these are paid at a higher rate. So, for example, that would be like time and a half, double time, or triple time. We will learn more about these later on. Salary is pay based on a fixed amount, which is paid monthly. So let's look at some questions. Example 1, determining how many hours the person worked. So here we have an example. James works 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. on weekdays. He also works 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. on Saturdays. Part A, how many hours did James work on Monday? B, how many hours did James work Monday to Friday? And C, how many hours did James work on Saturday? So, since he's working the same time on all the weekdays, we can determine from Monday and then easily Monday to Friday. So Monday would be, if we put this in 24-hour clock time, we know that 8 p.m. will be 16 o'clock and, or 1600 hours, and 8 a.m. the end time will be 800 hours. So we can know that as end time take away start time. That's one of the ways we can determine how many hours or the duration of time worked. So in total, that is 8 hours. Now we can also check it as, if we start at 8 a.m., we can count 8 to 9, 9 to 10, 10 to 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we can count it on our hands, we can tally it. So that's 8 hours. So 8 hours on one weekday. So 5 weekdays will be 8 hours multiplied by 5, which is 40 hours. And part C on Saturday. So Saturday's schedule is 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. So you can check 8 to 9, 10, 11, 12. Right? Or you can say 1200 hours, take away 800 hours. Using your 24-hour clock time, and you will get 400 hours, which is 4 hours. So we have a question. You can pause the video now and attempt the question, which is similar to the example. All right, let's continue. Question 1. Kelly works 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. So these are typical working times: 8 to 4, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. So let's get used to it. So we need to check how many hours is that. So 9 to 10, 11, 12, 12 to 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's go on. 4, 5. So that's 8. She also works 12 p.m. to 6 p.m. How many hours did Kelly work per week? So we have to work out all the weekdays. So one weekday will be 5 p.m. take away 9 a.m. or 1700 hours take away 900 hours, and we will get 8 hours. 5 weekdays will be 5 times 8 hours. Saturday, it's 12 p.m. to 6 p.m. So we can count it 12 to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Or we can say 1800 hours take away 1200 hours is 600 hours, which is 6 hours duration. So that's 40 plus 6 is 46 hours per week. Good, let's move on. Example 2. Damien worked a day shift from 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. from Monday to Wednesday during a certain week. On Thursday and Friday, he worked from 6 a.m. to 4 p.m. On Saturday, he worked from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. How many hours did he work that week? So we have a similar question, slightly different work schedule. So, and then we have question 3, which again is similar. So let's pause the video and let's try these two questions now. All right, so now that you all are finished with that, we can correct. All right, 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. We can check that. That's 8 hours. And that's Monday to Wednesday. So that's 3 times 8 is 24. Right, Thursday and Friday, it's 6 a.m. to 4 p.m., which is 10 hours. So 2 days, 10 hours, that's 20 hours. Right, so let's just put the working here on the side. Two p.m., that's 1400 hours. 6 a.m. is 600 hours. So when we subtract this, we will get 800 hours, which is equal to 8 hours. Right, and then we have 6 a.m. to 4 p.m. So 4 p.m. is 1600 hours. 6 a.m. is 600 hours. So that's 1000 hours, which is equivalent to 10 hours in terms of duration. Right, so I would have worked this out slightly different. So let's change this up a bit. Right, so the working in blue is optional. You can work that out mentally, or you can work it out fully. Right, so let's move this up a bit. All right. Right, question 3. Okay, let's finish off question 2, sorry. Saturday is 4 hours. Let's shift this up wrong. Right, Saturday is 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. So that will be 1200 hours minus 800 hours. That's 400 hours. So we're doing this in blue because it's optional to do this working. Most persons can do this mentally. All right. And then total, we can easily add 20, 24, and 4. Okay, question 3. Question 3. Shane works from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. We should know by now that that's 8 hours. During a certain week, he left work at 12 p.m. on Thursday, so he worked a shorter time on Thursday. That week, he also worked 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. on Saturday. All right. So what I would have done is we can do 8 a.m. So 4 p.m. we know that is equal to 8 hours. And that one day he finished earlier, which is 4 hours earlier, because 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. is 4 hours instead of the full 8 hours. So I will work out the full weekdays. So or in other words, this is another way you can work it. 8 hours for 5 days, that will be 40 hours. And for Tuesday, I will just subtract 40, take away 4. Right, and that will be 36 hours on the weekdays. Right, we can do it that way. And then on Saturday is the same. We could have even included Saturday there. So let's do that. Right, why not include Saturday? So for the week, Saturday will make it 6 days. 6 eighths of 48. Right, which is the same as what we worked out here. That is how I would have worked it out. So you have 2 options there. All right, so you can pause the video here, go through the solution, make sure that you all understand and make any necessary corrections. All right, let's continue. Right, so you all can pause the video and try these questions if you know what to do, and if not, I will show you all how to do it. Example 2, calculating weekly salary given rate and hours. So let's solve this. So we are given the total amount of hours and how much is earned per hour. So all we need to do is simply multiply the amount of hours by the hourly rate. 4 2s are 8. We put back the 2 zeros, so that's 800 for that week. Right, so now that you all know how to do that, we can try question 4 and question 5. Determine the amount of hours if it's not given, and then multiply it by the hourly rate. Right, the hourly rate, we can know the hourly rate by saying the certain amount of money per hour. Some amount of money per hour. Meaning that's how much money that you are getting each hour that you work. All right. Okay, so now that you have completed that, let's continue. All right, question 4. 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. We check that. 10 to 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's an 8-hour shift. Monday to Saturday, that's 6 days. So that's 8 times 6. Right, so how I would work that is I would put it on the side here. 6 p.m. That will be 12 plus 6, 18, 1800 hours. 10 a.m. will be 1000 hours. We subtract these two to find the duration of time, and that will be 800 hours, which is 8 hours. Right, so 8 hours times 6 days will be 48 hours. And then we multiply the total amount of hours by the hourly rate. 25 times 48 is 1200. Right, so if you didn't try 5, or if you got 4 wrong, you can pause the video again, retry 5, and then look at the solutions. All right, let's continue with number 5. "7 a.m. to 3 p.m. So we encountered this schedule already. We know that, or at least I mentioned it before. 7, so that's 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3. That's 8 hours. Monday to Thursday, so that's 4 days. 4 times 8, that's 32 hours. And then on Saturday, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. 9, 10, 11, 12, 1. So that's 4 hours on Saturday. Right, so that's 32. Right, 8 4s are 32, 32 plus 4, that's 36. Oh, and on Sundays as well, 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. So 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3. Right, so that's 5 hours. So that's 36 plus 5 is 41. Right, so look at here, 41 hours. And it's $19 per hour. 41 times 19 is 779. Moving along, question 6. So we have similar questions here for 6 and 7. So we should be able to get these correct. So pause the video and try these now. So the difference with these questions is that we have different hourly rate for different days. I'm guessing it's more for the weekend, there's a different rate. All right, let's correct. So 6 a.m. to 2 p.m., we encountered that before. If we count that, we'll realize that that is 8 hours. He earns $25 per hour Monday to Friday. That's 8 hours, 5 days. 8 hours, 5 days, so that's 40 hours. And 40 hours, we're working at $25 per hour. So 40 times 25. 425 are 100. So we add a 0 to the end, so that's 1,000. Right? And then on Saturday, or he's working the same 8 hours on Saturday as well. But the difference is he's working $40 per hour. So 8 hours on Saturday at $40 per hour. 8 4s are 32. So that's $320. So we add them together and we'll get $1,320. All right, so we can easily follow with question 7. So pause the video, look through the solution, make any necessary corrections, and let's continue. All right, example 3, determining hourly rate given wages and hours. So hourly rate is how much is earned per hour or each hour. So we are working, or Akim is working for $1,200. So that says wage for 40 hours. So what is hourly rate? His hourly rate is simply his salary, his wage divided by the amount of hours he worked for that wage. Right, cancel 1 and 0 on top with 1 and 0 below. 4 into 12, 4 into 4, 1, 4 into 12, 3. So your answer is 30. So that's 30 what? $30 per hour. Hourly rate is always an amount of money per hour. Right, so now that we understand what to do for example 3, go ahead and try example 4 and question 8 and 9. Alright, let's move on. Let's correct. So example 2 is straightforward. The only difference is that you have to count or calculate the amount of hours which we did before, and then we determine the hourly rate. And question 8 and 9 is similar to the examples above. Alright, so these are fairly simple. So once we are finished, we can move on. Remember to make your corrections. Alright, so these are just more questions. We can skip these for now. Example 5. So we have a different scenario now where we have the amount of days worked per week, the salary for that week, but we want to use that to determine how much is earned bi-weekly or in 2 weeks, and then how much is earned in 4 weeks, and then how much is earned daily. So that we know A and B is easy, right? We simply multiply the amount earned in 1 week by the amount or the number of weeks. So 1200 in 1 week. So bi-weekly or in 2 weeks would simply be 1200 multiplied by 2, which is $2,400. So that's simple. And of course B, you would guess that will also be 4 times 1200. So you multiply the amount of weeks by the weekly earning. 4 12s are 48, so that's 4,800 or $4,800. Now daily, all we need to do is determine how many days he worked per week, which was given above, 6 days per week. So if in 6 days he's making $1,200, we simply divide his weekly earnings by the amount of days he worked in that week. 6 into 6, 1, 6 into 12 is 2. So that's $200 daily, or $200 per day. Alright, so you can pause the video and try question 12. Alright, let's correct question 12. If you want to try the others, if question 12 is easy, you can go ahead and try example 6 and question 13. Yeah, they look similar. Alright, so check your working, check your answers. Once all is well, we can move on. Alright, so let's continue. So I'm going to give you a chance again. If you got example 5 or question 12 wrong, you can try over example 6 and question 13. Right, now that that's completed, let's correct. Again, these are fairly simple and straightforward, so I will allow you to take it down if you need to. Alright, so bi-weekly is 2 weeks. 4 weeks, of course, we multiply the salary of 1 week by 4. And daily, we can simply divide the weekly salary earnings, rather, by the number of days worked in that week. Right, so for question 12 and question 13, you will have realized that we have to work out the wages if it wasn't given. All right, let's move on. Overtime. What's overtime? So overtime simply refers to additional time worked beyond your basic hours. So most persons work 8 hours per day, and the hours that is worked beyond that 8 hours is called overtime hours. And then we have what is called an overtime rate. Overtime rate is usually a higher rate than your basic rate. So for example, if someone is earning $30 per hour, their overtime rate is normally more than $30 per hour. So for example, that can be $45 an hour, $60 an hour. Right, so let's look at some questions, and this will definitely help us to understand this subtopic better. So example 7. Charmaine worked 55 hours in total in 1 week. She worked 48 basic hours. How many hours did she work overtime? Right, so that's simple. We can simply say 55 minus 48. This will give us 7. That's 7 hours overtime. Right, so go ahead and take down example 7 and try question 14. All right, easy questions. Right, ensure that you got it correct. If not, take down the working and the answer. All right, so we have some other questions here. Example 8. Hayden worked 40 basic hours and 12 overtime hours. How many hours did he work in total? So your total hours is your basic plus your overtime. So that's, of course, 40 plus 12, 52 hours. Right, so question 15 should be easy. All right, let's correct. Time and a half. Time and a half is an overtime rate, right? So let's see what the definition has. Time and a half. This means that you are getting paid 1.5 times as much as your normal rate, which will also be equal to if you worked for 1.5 the amount of hours. Let's see if we can understand that. So example 9. Overtime hours is 4 hours. All right. Basic rate is $20 per hour. Calculate the overtime salary for time and a half rate. Okay. So method 1, time and a half or 1.5, multiply by basic rate. So 1.5 times 20, we know 20 plus half of 20 is 20 plus 10 is 30. So overtime rate or time and a half rate is $30 per hour. All right. How many overtime hours did the person work? 4 hours. So 4 hours overtime at $30 per hour. So that's 30 times 4, which is 120 or $120. All right, so method 2, hours times 1.5. Right, we are using it a bit more literal, time and a half. So we are multiplying the time by 1.5. So 4 hours multiplied by 1.5, right? 1.5 can be written as 3 over 2. 2 into 2 is 1, 2 into 4 is 2. 2 times 3 is 6. So it's as if you're working 6 hours instead of 4 hours, because 4 times 1.5 is 6. But if we're doing it that way, we must use the basic rate multiplied by the time, which is kind of stated in overtime, or the time and a half rate. So time and a half is really 6 hours. Although he actually works 4, time and a half will be considered 6. 6 hours times 20 is 120. So we can clearly see that we have 2 methods that we can use. So go ahead and take this down, this example down. And of course you can choose which method you want to use. I prefer method 1. It allows us to be able to solve a variety of questions with one method. At times it might be a little longer, maybe 1 or 2 steps more, but overall it's a more efficient way in my opinion. All right, so let's continue. So the note here says we will use method 1 to solve the other questions, as it seems easier to understand and write. So of course, if you prefer method 2, you can try method 2 and see if you got the same answer. All right, so we spoke about time and a half. Now we're going to talk about double time and triple time. So double time really talks about twice or double the hourly rate. Overtime rate will be 2 times 24. The basic rate is 24, so double that, that's $48 per hour. And Stephen worked 5 hours. Right, so on top we have double time, and they are saying that an example of when we will get double time is like on weekends or holidays. Okay, so back to Stephen's overtime salary. So your overtime salary will be overtime rate multiplied by overtime hours. So that's $48 per hour multiplied by 5 hours will give us $240. Right, and so we can guess what triple time, how we would work our triple time. So I want you all to take down example 10, but I also want you all to try the triple time question. It's very similar to double time. Right, so we can pause the video now and let's correct the triple time. Or let's view the triple time rather. Alright, so triple time would be 3 times your basic hourly rate. 3 times 22 in this case is 66. So we multiply $66 per hour by the amount of hours to determine the overtime salary. Alright, so let's try some questions. So pause the video and try these 2 questions for me. Alright, are you ready to correct? Let's correct. Question 16. Jason normally works from Monday to Friday, earning at a rate of $40 per hour. On weekends, he earns time and a half. During a certain weekend, he works for a total of 16 hours. How much overtime pay did he earn? Right, so on the weekend he earns time and a half. So let's determine what's the time and a half rate. So we'll start off with doing the calculations for time and a half or the overtime rate. So that's 3 over 2 multiplied by the basic rate. 2 into 2, 1, 2 into 40 is 20. So 3 times 20 we know is 60, so that's $60 per hour. Right, and that's 40 hours, $40 per hour for 16 hours. So he's working for $60 per hour for 16 hours. So this will give us his earnings. Right, that will be 60 plus 36 is 96. All right, let's do it. 16 times 6. 6 is 36. Yes, that was correct. 96. And so we have to put back the 0 because it's really multiplying by 60. So that's $968. Right? So let's take a closer look at the working. Right, so if you don't have this already, you can take it down now. Alright, moving along. So again, if you didn't get question 16 correct, you can maybe retry question 17 before we do the solution. Alright, let's correct. So Simon works from Monday to Friday, earning $45 per hour. On weekends, he earns an overtime rate of time and a half. If Simon worked from 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. Monday to Friday and 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. on Saturday, what is his base salary earned and how much did he earn working overtime on Saturday? And then what is total? So let's just make a correction to this typo. Alright, so his base salary or his basic salary would be $45 per hour multiplied by the amount of hours. So 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. we know that that's 8 hours and 5 weekdays, so that's 40 hours. Overtime now. So let's start by working out time and a half. 45 times 1.5. Alright, let's work that out. So 45 multiplied by 3 over 2. So we have it here now. So let's work that out on the side. Two into 2, 1. 2 into 4 is 2. 2 into 5 is 2. Remainder 1. 1 over 2 is 0.5. Right, and 3 times 22.5 will give us 67.5. So that's $67.5 per hour. Right, how much hours did he earn or work rather on Saturday? Saturday it's 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. so that's 12 hours. So we simply multiply. We best put OT for overtime. 67.5 multiply by 12, and we should get the same answer, yes. This is equal to $810. So we're going to add that to our basic or base salary to get a total. Right, so you might need to go through this again, make sure you understand before you move on. So let's just recap. You will get your basic salary using your basic hours and your basic rate. You will get your overtime. You can multiply the amount of hours by 1.5, multiply that by the hourly rate. So hourly rate times 1.5 will give you your overtime rate, and so it's your overtime rate multiplied by 12. Again, we can try this way. Overtime rate multiplied by overtime hours will give us total overtime salary or wage. Alright, moving along. Alright, let's continue with some more overtime questions. You can pause the video and try these now. Alright, let's go to the solutions. So question 18, Derek normally works from Monday to Friday, earning at a rate of $35 per hour. On weekend, he earns double time. During a certain weekend, he works for a total of 20 hours. How much overtime pay did he earn? So I'm hoping that you all realized that the Monday to Friday hours wasn't given and wasn't required to work basic wage. So we are only concerned with the overtime pay. So he worked 20 hours overtime. So what is his overtime rate? His overtime rate is double time rate, which is twice his regular hourly rate. 35 times 2 is $70 per hour. $70 per hour for 20 hours will give us $1,400. 19. So we have the overtime, but we also have the base salary this time. So Monday to Friday, 6 a.m. to 2 p.m., that's 8 hours. 8 hours for 5 days will give us 40 hours. 40 hours at, is it 50? Yes, $50 per hour. So 50 times 40 is $2,000. Overtime now. So his overtime rate would be double time, which is 50 times 2 is 100 hours. That's 6 a.m. to 12 p.m. He's working overtime. So that is 6 hours. 6 hours at $100 per hour will give us $600. So we add the base salary plus the overtime salary, we will get the total earnings. Right, so what if we are given the overtime rate and we want to determine the basic hourly rate? So $36 per hour is a double time. So this is twice as much as the basic hourly rate. So how do we determine the basic hourly rate? Well, we simply divide by 2. So that will be 36 divided by 2, which is 18. So his basic hourly rate will be $18 per hour. Right, so now that you all have that example, can you all try examples 13 and 14 as well? Go ahead and pause the video and unpause it when you are finished. Alright, let's solve. So again, we have example 12 written there. We have example 13, which is triple rate. So 57 divided by 3 will give us the basic rate, which is 90. 19 3s are 57. And then time and a half. So this is the one that might give you a little trouble. So let's do this one. So why do we have 1.5 basic? Okay. So one and a half multiplied by the basic rate will give you $39 per hour. We can write 1.5, which is, well, we can write it as 3/2. Right, if we want to get a basic rate, we carry the 3/2 across, which means we flip the 3/2, and that will give us 2/3. 3 into 3 is 1, 3 into 39 is 13. 13 2s are 26. So that's $26 per hour will be your basic rate. Alright, so I hope that you all got that. If not, take it down. Let's see, do we have any that we can try? Yes. So pause the video and try these for me, please. Alright, let's continue. So these questions are no different to what we did before. So I won't bother to go through it in fine detail. Instead, you all can read through the solution. Right, so we'll stop here now.
Thank you for watching. If you have found this video to be helpful, please feel free to contact us for more information about our classes.